Okay, so for tuple, we declare with a round bracket. For list, you declare with a square bracket. But for dictionary, you use a curly bracket. So anytime you see a variable and then that contains data in a curly bracket, then that's a dictionary. So a dictionary has some components. It has a key and a value. For instance, look at this variable called port. It's a dictionary, one, because it's in a curly bracket, but notice how the elements are. This has two things there. We have something that comes before the colon and something that comes after a colon. So what comes after the colon is called a key. What comes before the colon is called a key. What comes after the colon is called a value. It can be any data type. It doesn't have to be a number. This doesn't have to be a code. It can be any data type. If it's a number, you don't put a code because it's a number. Being a code is a string. So, but what makes a dictionary are two things: the curly bracket, and then the elements inside are in form of key and value. Remember, the key is what comes before the colon, and what comes after the colon is the value. This is what I'm saying. Suppose you have a dictionary called dict1. So we have this curly bracket. So I want to put different things there. Suppose this dictionary is about animals. So let's say I'm saying, or just about you guys there. I want to look at different locations. Maybe Fumbi, suppose Fumbi stays in Lagos. So these are strings. And suppose Taiwo stays in, use colon, suppose Taiwo stays in Ibadan. Suppose. Remember, this doesn't have to be true. And suppose
I'm actually in Ibadan.
Oh wow, that means I'm guessing correctly. So suppose Rafiu stays in let's just say Rafiu stays at Lekki, Rafiu sound tush. So let's make him Lekki. And then let's make Shehu stays in the US. So this is a dictionary. So what are the keys there? The keys are these names: Fumbi, Taiwo, Rafiu, and Shehu. These are the keys in the data, in this dictionary. What are the values? Whatever Fumbi is, whatever you are assigning to Fumbi is the value: Lagos, Ibadan, Lekki, and USA. So that's the value. So, but the combination of the key and the value is called an item. So this is just like you have a room. To access your room, you use a key. Now, what is inside your room? That's the item. Suppose you have your books and your bags in your room. That becomes your item. How can you take the book? You have to first access the room. How can you access the room? You need a key. If you use the wrong key, you won't get to be able to access the book in the room. So the book is the value. The key is the key you are holding to access the room. So that's what a dictionary is. And this is used a lot. For instance, I don't know, I'm not sure in Nigeria in terms of the example I want to give. Here, in terms of, they use it too. It's just that post office doesn't work. It's not viable again in Nigeria. Here, for instance, you have a post office. Each house has a zip code, like each street has a zip code. So, and each house, and each house is an address in that zip code. If they want to post something to you, they only need to know your zip code and the address, the street name and the zip code. In fact, the street name is not relevant in terms of the zip code. So the zip code becomes your key. And whatever they want to give you, it becomes the item. So back to dictionary here. This is the key. The key can be any data. It doesn't have to be a string. I can put something like the key, let's say 6, and I say the value there, this is holding unknown. So we don't know the person. So a key can be a number, and the value can also be, it can be any data type. The main thing that is important is the key is separated from the value with a colon, and then you wrap it in a curly bracket. That's what makes it dictionary. Is my explanation clear? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, it's clear.
All right. So what is the combination of this key and value? What did I say is called? Anybody? Can you remember?
It's called an item.
An item. That's right. So we can access it. So suppose we want to access all the keys. Remember, I told you that don't memorize anything. Once you put dot, press tab. It will list all the things, all the method you can apply on a dictionary. You can do that. We did that for string. We did that for list. So here, see keys here is a method. So it must end with parentheses. If you do that, you give us all the keys. Fumbi, Taiwo, Rafiu, Shehu, and then these 6. And we can loop through it if you want to. So we can start combining these things now. So, and we can also get the values. Let's see, put dot and press tab. See, values too is a method. So if you do that, it gives us all the values that we are saying. This, what comes after the colon, those are the values. It gives us all those things, Lagos, Ibadan, Lekki, and all of that. I'm seeing those, some of the people that have not been showing up before. Maybe what we have been doing before are pretty basics. I mean, if you know all those ones, you'll be able to flow with today's class. Otherwise, you may look lost too. Okay, so I've said 2 things now. We've looked at the dictionary. We've also looked at how to access the key. So we can access the key. Since we know keys are stored in the keys method, we can access it there. Since we know this will give us all the keys, we can just look through it. That, okay, for key, in the keys in this dictionary, print key. This gives me all the key. You get? So is this simple, this short code I wrote, is it clear to everyone? Is it clear? I mean, those who were here last week, this should be easy. Is it? I mean, if it's not, please let me know. Are we together? Am I moving too fast?
We are together, sir.
All right, thank you. So that's it. So all this one, forget about the for loop and all of that. The main thing I want you to take note of is how to access the keys and the value. And we can also access the items. Like, remember I said items represent the key and the value together. So if you do this, we give you all the keys and the value together, the key and the value. So that's what makes up an item. So that's that about dictionary. I won't spend too much time on it. So, and then, so suppose you have, and you can run a loop through it, like I said. We can check if a key is actually in a dictionary. We can say, okay, if Taiwo in dict1, what should you do? Print yes, we can do that. S, print no. So for those who were not here before, once you use if, make sure is a condition. So end with a colon. You know, so that's just if Taiwo in this, then what? Print yes. S, print no. So Taiwo is there, it's going to print yes. So it's only, you can check the key. So let's see if we check value and see what will happen. Lagos, maybe it will recognize it. You see, you cannot check by the value. That's why it's telling us no. You check with the key, because just like you can't access the item in your room. You can't access the item in your room, sorry. if you don't have access to the room. So you have to first get to the room to access. So that's why you cannot check for the item, the value itself. You have to use the key, because once we know the key, we can get the value. If I want to get where Fumbi stays, I only need to call the dictionary. Since I know the key, as the key is Fumbi, I will just call Fumbi and it will give me the value where Fumbi is staying. So you can see, we are still using square bracket to index. So that's indexing a dictionary. In string, we have to specify the index, like the value, maybe 0, 1. In list, the same thing. But in dictionary, you index it with the key. If you know the key, if I put Lekki Rafiu there, if I put Rafiu there, it's going to give me where Rafiu is saying Lekki. But what if I put the value there, like Lekki? What happens? It tells me key error, Lekki, because you can't access a room by using your book. You know, your book is in the room. You now want to access your room with the book. You cannot. You don't even have access to the book. So that is it. So the same way, you access a room with a key. So you access a dictionary with the key. Is it clear? Any question, please? Or are we good? Can I move forward?
Very, very clear, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so that's what all of this, and we can update a dictionary. Suppose I want to change, let's say Taiwo.
So, I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead and ask your question. Hello, who is that? Okay, let me go ahead since you are not talking. So suppose I want to replace Taiwo in the dictionary. I want to assign someone else. Now, oh, this shouldn't be Taiwo there. Maybe I want to say about someone different. Like, okay, maybe it's Awele I want to talk about. Sorry, your network is very bad. Whoever is talking, so is not clear. Yeah. Yeah, your network is not clear. Okay, so suppose I want to talk about Awele instead of Taiwo. So I want to replace this key. I want to replace Taiwo by someone else. So all I need is the key. I just need to replace the key. That's all. So specify the key I want, which is Awele, and then tell Awele is in University of Lagos. So let me put, I'll put, let's say Unilab. You know, that's that. So that will replace, that will, I mean, it's not like it's replacing, I'm adding Awele to the list. I'm adding Awele to the list. I can actually replace Taiwo by read, but to add, just add Awele to the dictionary. And what do? Specify the key and assign the value to read. That will add Awele to the list. You can see Awele now is now in the list. It's now in the dictionary. So you can update a dictionary. It is mutable. You can update it. Okay. So, and if you want to replace Taiwo, all you need is specify Taiwo as a key and then change the value, whatever you want to assign to it, you know, things like that. So that's what I was, I think I was saying it here, that you can update the value of a key. So what we can do is, suppose I now know Taiwo is not in Ibadan, maybe Taiwo is in Port Harcourt. All I need to do is call Taiwo as the key, just replace the Ibadan by whatever key you want to put the Port, you know, Harcourt, things like that. Yeah, and then that will change the value, which is the location of Taiwo. It's not that it's going to replace Taiwo, it's going to replace the value we assigned to Taiwo. So that's that about dictionary. I don't know if you have any question, you are free, but that's much of what you will see in a dictionary. You can play around all this method, like when you call your dictionary, dict1 and put dot, press tab. You can play around all of this. But the most important one is the items, the key value. You can also use the updates automatically to do that. So play around them, and then there's nothing much about dictionary. But if you have any question, please ask now, because I'm done with dictionary. Question, please, before we move on. Is it clear?
I have a question, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The last time you explained to us how to use list comprehension.
Yes.
Is there anything like that for dictionaries as well?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not so common, but yeah, there's dictionary. You can do that. I mean, you mean dictionary comprehension? Is that what you mean? Like
yes,
writing a for loop inside dictionary. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean, sir.
Well, I'm not familiar with that. If there may be, I'm not familiar with that. You know, in programming, you have to be careful of saying no. No, of saying something doesn't exist. So I can't say it doesn't exist. You can try it out, you know. Yeah, but it's not that common if it is. So suppose you have like, so maybe I should get a question. Well, is it like we have a dictionary like this, and then like, let's say this, then we want to loop through it, like write a for loop and loop through this port, or we have a list. We now want to write a for loop inside a dictionary. Is that a question? Maybe I don't get your question. I know you are talking of list comprehension, writing for loop inside a list. But if it's to write you now want to write a dictionary like this and say for I in what do we call it? Port 1. You know, this import print I. See, so this support put rest, you see. So you can, but it's going to loop through the key. That's just all. It's just the key you'll be looping through, not the value. Because I told you that you can only access the key. Okay? So even if I run the for loop, it's only looping through the key. But I can use the key to access it. I can do for I import, give me port of I. That's all. Then this will give me the value. So Rafi, do I answer your question?
Yes, it did, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, but it's not that common. I mean, it's possible. It's not common because of the way dictionary is accessed. It's accessed with key and not indexing. So this one it stands for, when I do for I can't do for I in range ports now. That would be error. In range of, but I can do for I in range of the length of port. However, I will be representing 0, and that may be an issue. For instance, if I do I in range of length of ports, see, that will be error. Because, so that will be error because range of the length of the port this is going to be 1, 2, 3. So, and I'm doing 0 to 2. So I is not standing for this again, standing for 0. And when I put port of 0, it doesn't recognize 0. That's why I put key error 0. So because of the way dictionary is accessed with key, not with ordinary number. Do you understand? So that's why most time we use list comprehension for things like that. I mean, the dictionary comprehension, that's what you saw, but understand how you index a dictionary. That's the most important thing. That will help you if you want to write for loop inside the dictionary. Okay, so if there's no more question, we can move to what we have for today, which is control statements. And under the control statement, we're going to look at the if, this way, and let's see if we get the function, but the if statement and for loop, and hopefully if we're able to get a function, then we'll be able to start working with data next week. Otherwise, we might, that's the goal anyway. So let's start. Let's start with this. I'm going to try as much as possible to not be too fast, but it's going to be in question and answer. So I need you to be responsive, like give response or things like that. So we've been using the if and all of that. If, elif, else, and we've been using it. So this should be clear. So a simple question I'm quickly giving you guys. Write a simple program to ask for a user's password. Let it display access denied for incorrect password. And let it display welcome. So your program should display, collect the name of the person and the password, and then check if the password is equal to a default password. By default password, let me give you default password already. 1, 2, 3. So write a simple program to ask for collect a user's password, check it if it's equal to this password. If it does, it should welcome the person. So that means you need to collect the name of the person. It should welcome the person that, oh, welcome Kenny, or welcome Rafiu, things like that. But if it's incorrect, it should tell the person, sorry, maybe access denied, or Kenny, your password is wrong. Can you guys do it in 1 minute? You want to give it a try and put your code in the chat box if you are working on a system. If you are not, and you want to call the code for me, you want me to be your writer, I'm willing to do that. TBK, you have not been around and you're a professor, you should be able to do this now. So I'm calling on TBK. Others, you can continue working. Yes, TBK, are you there? TBK has refused to answer me. Yes, who want to try then? Please, TBK did not answer. Yeah, I'm using password PWD to be 1, 2, 3. So write a program to do what I have here. Yes, who want to try? You guys need to.
All right, I want to try.
Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to be correct.
So can say name equals to input.
Name equals to input. I will explain this input Joseph is using now. Okay.
Input into curly brackets. Yes. Then open quotation.
Okay.
Let's have, what is your name? Or enter your name.
Okay.
All right. Then PWD. Okay, no, PWD1. Let's say PWD1. Yes, equals to input, enter your password. So then we now go to the next line and say if PWD1 equals to, yes, double equals to exactly, equals to PWD, then our colon, then next we indent, okay, we now say print, open brackets, welcome, welcome, then we now put name. Will it work this way? No, put welcome. Don't put name first.
Okay.
Welcome. Close. No, don't put space. No, welcome here. Then space after the quotation mark. After quotation, yes. Then put name. Yes. Then else. Under if. Yes. Else. Print. Access denied in your quotation.
Okay, so let me look at the code people are posting. Okay, so I'm going to post other, let me run this first. Let's put this here. Let's run this. So it's having issue with this line. So think about that. Let me put copy what Adam saying. Okay,
Okay.
Rafiu put this. So think about that. So what you should put, if I thought it should be a comma, okay? So you can see it will work. So before I copy Rafiu, so just put a comma, okay? Not space. All right, enter your name.
Okay, sir.
Joseph. Enter your password. Let's put the wrong password first. 124 access denied. So that worked. Let's try it again. Joseph. Let's put the right password. Access denied. What happened? So think about what is wrong. You're only missing one thing. So let me copy others. Why Joseph is thinking. Let's put what Rafiu. Let's see. So let's so this is what Rafiu has said. Input, enter your password. If the password one is equals to that, access granted. So this will correctly run, but you didn't collect the name of the person. That's the main thing I wanted you to do. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, access denied. 1, 2, 3, access denied. Still the same problem. So let me look at the last person, the code Adam's input and see. I will just glance through it and see if there's anything wrong. So the same thing, input, what's your name, enter, yeah. So Adamson solved the issue. The issue is whatever input. So let me talk about input first because of those who are not aware. So to collect user something from an external user, you use the input function. So input means it makes you like it prompts the user to enter something from the keyboard. So that's what the input is doing. But by default, input gives you a string by default. Anything once you use input and it asks the person, anything the user is supplying is seen as a string. So for name, there won't be an issue. But for password, because the password there is an integer, and the input will give you a string, you have to convert it to an integer. And that's what Adamson is doing here. The input will give you a string, whatever the user is supplying, but it converted it back to an integer. So this will work because it converts it back. And then it's checking if the input is now equals to your welcome name. So if we try this now, if you try with the name Adamson, let's Adam, and then let's put the wrong password, it says access denied. So one more time, Adam, and then put the right password, is going to be correct because it converted it to an integer. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think this question and answer will make it clear, easy, and enjoying. So let's look at multiple if else, because you can have if you have conditions, then there's something called elif. Like if I want to do, okay, if let's say Fumbi is in class, let's say there is a variable called maybe DS 101. Let's say there's a variable. I will say, okay, print present, let's say I now want to check another person, maybe in our group S, so it's S if. So combination, that become elif, S if. In other programming language like C++, it will be S if. The same thing with R and all of that. So, but in Python, it combines the S and if to become elif. So it's else if, let's say, another person, maybe Rafiu, in DS 101, print, present, things like that. And then you can now do maybe S, print, absent, So S is always the last thing, something like that. I will not run this because there's no list called DS101. But that's just get the idea. So if you're running multiple ifs, you can always use, and you can use elif multiple times until you get to the last thing. S is always the last condition. So suppose you have this table, and it talks about the grade of students. So you want to write a program that says that anybody that gets above, that gets 4 and above, or that gets above 4 should be given a grade A. Anybody between 3, above 3 and below 3.5, is above 3 and below 3.5 should be given grade B. Though there is a condition missing, like 3.5 to 4 is missing here. So let's do, so let's just keep that condition hanging. But above 4 should be A, between 3 and 3.5 B, above 2.5 and below 3 should be C, and all of that. Can you write a simple program to give the students their grade if they fall in this score in 1.5 minutes? And who want to try? You can write and put your code there, and if you want making me write, that would be that would be a lot. But I can do that. I can help you write if you want to call the code. Or otherwise, you write and paste the code. You want to try? The time starts now if you are starting. Are you writing? Hello, are you guys writing so that we know whether we are waiting or not?
We're writing, sir.
All right, who want to try? Who is not writing and you want to try, you want to call the code? Awele, are you in this class? I can't hear, I've not heard your voice today. Yes, Fumbi, Taiwo, Ayomide, BC, Caleb, Chibike. I've not even heard your own voice before. Yes, Yakub, who want to try? You don't have to be right, remember? Yes, yes, yes. You have 30 seconds more if you are writing code. Otherwise, I will leave it for you guys as exercise. I won't write it. Dimeji, if nobody answers you, I expect you to put your code in the chat.
I should type it, or I should call it.
No, type it. You are using your system now. Type it and put in the code chat if the time ends and nobody answers.
Okay.
Okay, time is up. So, is there anybody sending any code? Fumbi, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
So, what do you have? Do you have anything to show? Okay, Dimeji, help us out. Do you have it already?
Okay, sir. Let me call it.
No, I thought you have written it. So I will.
I'm with my
So write it and put it in the chat. Okay, so Adamson has given us something again. Let's see. Let's see. So Adam has input, enter your score. If the grade is equals to 4, you add an A, though is above 4. So, but we'll come to that. S, if grade is greater than or equals to 3 and less than or equals to 4, so there'll be an issue here. I suspect that there'll be an issue here. Let's see. You see exactly what I'm saying. So you need to call back grade, not just the put this. You need to call back the variable. Do you understand? So you can now it will work. So enter your score. Let's say I put 4.5. So because you put equals to 4, this might not work. See, because there is no condition for that. So this is greater than, or at once you can put greater than or equals to 4. So let's rerun. So this will make it an infinite loop. You can see it's looping because there was no condition, your condition did not capture that. And the code will be running. See, that's why that place is shaded. So I will have to stop the kernel, you know, and sometimes, so I will have to restart, you know, something like that. So sometimes when you run an infinite loop, your code will be running forever and you may have to restart the kernel, you can see. So, but this now we cater for it. So if we run this now, this should, we do 4.5. So see your error. It said invalid literal int 4.5. So this is it. You so when we enter it, if it's equals to this, print, you add an A, but it's giving us error here. You know why? Let me see someone else, Rafiu. So maybe why Adam is thinking about that. Let's look at what Rafiu got. This is the last one I'll get, then I will move forward. For you guys will decode that. So this is what I feel, right? Enter your score. So is that if the grade, this one is a float. So the problem was you use int, but the grade could be is float. It could contain decimal points. So that was why yours was giving error, because you use int and it cannot undo decimals. So if I put 4, it will work because this is an integer. But so to take it's better you use float like what a few did. I just done. Use float, that will undo both integer and float and decimal points. So is that if the grade is greater than or equal to 4? What is it?
What is for Adam's sense?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so you later correct that. Yeah, so if the grade is, so it should be float and not integer. So I didn't know you correct that, yeah. So if you know it's going to contain decimal point, use float instead of the int. So the same thing, so this is fairly straightforward. Here, what you have just done is to collect the score from the user. If the grade is greater than or equal to, so this will convert it to float. Is greater than or equal to, I print it. S, if the grade is greater than or equal to 3 and is less or equal to this, you print this. But just know that you are calling the variable name every time, not just like calling this and less or equal to this. And then this is another condition, you print C. This is another condition. If it's less than this, so you, instead of doing LE grade is less than D, you add a D. D is the last thing there. So you can just use S here. You can omit this. You can omit this and print all grades above below 2.5 should be D. So if it's below 2, if it doesn't meet these 3 conditions, it's going to be D. The grade will be D, not no grade. This is an additional stuff. So that's how to do multiple if, else, and all of that, else if. So the goal here, what I want you to catch is, if you are writing multiple statements, you use the else if for multiple conditions, but the last condition will be else. So that's the goal. Yeah. Okay. So another thing is the for loop. We have been using for loop. There's also another one called while loop. We normally call it indefinite loop. That's because while loop by nature can give you indefinite loop. So you are the one that will need to find a way to break out of the loop. So I have a question. I mean, let me demonstrate while loop before I ask you guys to write that. So it's similar to for loop, except that, so for instance, if I want to sum 5, let's say I want to sum 5 numbers. I want to collect 5 numbers from the external user, and I want to, at the end, I want to print what maybe the average of those numbers to the user. So you remember I said I want to collect 5 numbers from a user, and I want to show at the end of the loop, I want to give the person, oh, this is the average of all the numbers you have entered. We can do that using while loop. We can do that with for loop too. Almost all the code you can run with for loop, you can run with while loop. So it depends on which one you are comfortable with. Sometimes one is better depending on the application. So here, for instance, we can have a variable called total and initialize that to 0. We can also have count, initialize that to 0. Most time before you use while loop, you will have you would have initialized a variable, because that can help you to break out of the loop. So we can now say, since we want to collect 5 numbers from a user, we can say, okay, while count is less than 5. So what this means is that as long as count is less than 5, anything I put under the while loop, run it. Once it's equals to 5, this condition becomes false, and then the loop will terminate. So to use a while loop, you must have a condition that will help you terminate the loop. Otherwise, it will run indefinitely. That maybe until the battery of your system breaks down, or you manually terminate it by restarting the kernel, or you interrupt the kernel. So this is saying while this count, so at the first time count is 0. So it's going to check, okay, 0 is less than 5, it's going to run it. So that means inside the while loop, we must have a way to increase the count. Otherwise, count will remain 0 and it will always be less than 5 and it will run indefinitely. So while the count is less than 5, what do we want to do? Let's say we want to collect number from a user. Let's call it number. So we call it, let's say float, because the user can enter anything. Input, enter a number. Okay. So remember, the first time it's going to check, okay, 0 is less than 5, it's going to ask the user to send the number. Whatever the person enters is converted to a float and is saved as this. What do we want to do? We want to now update the total. So we will update the total. Remember I told you this method, plus equals. Can anyone remind me what plus equals is doing here? What does this statement mean here? Anybody? We did that the very first day. What's this saying? Anybody?
Yeah, trying to update the number.
So it's going to become, it's the same thing as this. It's the same thing as total equals to total plus number. It's the same. Okay? So it's the same thing, but shortcut, put this. So that would mean total equals to total plus number, save it back as total. So this is going to update the 0 by adding the number, the person has said. That's all. And when we are done with everything, when we are done, we can now do total. We can now do total. Okay, so we increase the count, remember, otherwise this loop will run indefinitely. So at the end, we can now do, okay, our average, maybe let's say our average equals to now our total divided by the count. And then we can say, okay, print. I want to purposely do this. Print your average is what? Average. You don't forget about what I'm trying to do here. This one just formats the string. So if I put F before the quote, before the quotation mark, I can put the variable inside the curly bracket and it will see it as a variable. Okay, so let's see. So it tells me to enter a number. I put 23.5, enter a number, I put 65, I put 23. Tells me, hello, who is that? Please be muted. So it tells me your average is 29.5. You can see it sees the, but don't worry, these are just, you know, small design. You don't have to use the, but if you want to use the format string, I can just end before the quotation and then it will see the variable that you are calling, put it inside the curly bracket, you see it. That's all. So that's how you can say a while loop, while the count is this. So this, what it's doing is that it checks 0 is less than 5. He asks me to enter a number. Whenever I enters, he has it with the total, which was already 0. And then it increased the count from 0 to 1. It goes back. It doesn't come here. It goes back. It checks. Count is now 1. Count is less than 1 is less than 5. It asks for this. Whatever I add, he added it to the total, which the previous total, and then increase count again. Once the count is 5, this condition is false. So it terminates and then it prints it. Then that's when it evaluates this statement, total divided by count, and then it's giving me the average. Is it clear? Any question? Is it clear?
It's clear, sir.
All right. So if that is clear, let me give you this question as an example. Write a program to ask for users' password. Maybe I should leave this as, maybe I should copy this as exercise in the breakout room so as not to waste your time. Let me copy this then. So remember, this will not be in your notebook, but please, you try it. I will remind you at the end of this. Yep, so. Yeah, so let me, so that we can finish that on time. So that's that about the while loop. So there are different questions that I put in between that you can play around it. So, but that's about the while loop. To talk about break statement, let's look at these two lists. I have one list that contains these, that's the first, I have another list called second. So there is a question here that says, write a program to use the element of the second list to check the element of the first list. If the element of the second list is found in the first list, the program should print that element for me and then stop. It should just print maybe element is found and then stop. Do you understand the question? You have two lists. You want to go through the element of the second list and check if that element is found in the first list. If it is found there, print that element that is found and then terminate the program. Who wants to try? Let's do this fast. Who wants to try? Joseph, do you want to try? If you are here and you are not contributing, it's synonymous to you not being here. That's the truth. It's of no use if you are here and we are calling, you can't respond. Chibike, we've been calling you all this, you didn't respond. It's of no use. We are teaching is to communicate. Yes, who want to try? Anybody? Fumbi, do you want to try? Taiwo. Okay, if nobody is responding, I leave you. I give that for you as an assignment. That's it.
I can try, sir.
Right. Not you, Dimeji, no? You're not a student.
I want to try, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Once I ask question and you are not ready to, nobody's responding, I will leave you that, give you that as an exercise. Yeah, if that's what you want. Okay, go ahead, Rafiu.
Yeah, I'll use a for loop.
Okay.
I'll say for x, y.
So, okay, but I'm not saying you should go through the two lists at the same time, but go ahead.
Sir, you said we should check
So
we should
go
compare
through the second list and check if the element in the second list is found in the first list. If it's found, print the element and then terminate the program. But go ahead and, I mean, do you understand?
I'll change that. For I, I'll use I or another letter. Just a single letter, sir.
Okay.
For I in second.
Okay.
Column, sir. So if I in first, column, print I. The next line, break. Thank you.
That's all. S, so you can just, I mean, add to read. S, maybe you can now do, maybe you can now print if you want to. But that's all. The code ends here. Thank you, Rafiu. So you can now print maybe not found if you like. It's as good as that. So these two elements are not found. 13 is found. That's why it's printing it. That's all. And if you do not put this, it's just going to print 13. So it's even if you don't have to get it right, but you should be willing to try. Otherwise, if I'm writing the code, it's going to look easy until you write it. So if you are not writing it, you don't yet know it. So that's why another alternative, since some of you are not using your system, try, call the code. That's when you will know if you understand this thing. But you keeping quiet is synonymous to you not being in the class. That's the truth. So it's as good as, our advice is that if you will not participate, there's no point showing up because you don't know it if you are not saying anything. That's the truth. Okay, thank you. So that's it. I mean, I'll quickly look at functions because it seems you guys are very quiet. So I will just go through the functions and then you can go to the breakout rooms and do that and do the exercise if you want to. Okay, so what are functions? So then I won't spend much time on function because function is just like a wrapper to wrap all of the code you have been writing before. It's not anything different. It's just like a wrapper and we'll wrap it around all of the code. So you don't always start with a function. Write the code. If you are just beginning, write the code. And then once you are sure the code is working, you can now wrap it inside a function. So to me, I see function as a wrapper to wrap all the code you have been writing. So how do you define a function? You define a function with the def keyword, DEF, to stand for define. And then followed by the name of the function, and then the parenthesis that follows it, and then you end it with a colon. Yeah, so you define a function with a def keyword, followed by a function name with a parenthesis that you can put parameter argument there if you like, and then a colon. Why do we need a function? Without a function, all this code you have been writing, they are not reusable. If you want to write similar code now that will do the same thing as getting the average, we will have to rewrite it again. But we can put all of this code now, we can put it in a function so that we can, for instance now, if I want to ask all of you to supply give me a number, 5 numbers, and let me add it and give you back the average. I will have to write this code one by one, copy and paste for each and every one. But we can write a simple function, and all we need to, a simple function to calculate the average from 5, average of 5 numbers supplied by user. All we need to do is just to be calling the function multiple times. Just call the function for each person. So that's the essence of function, is for reusability, to reuse a code. Otherwise, once you know you are going to be repeating a particular code multiple times, we will see that when we get to start working with data and machine learning. So you might need to put in a function. And the way I would teach it, you will have to be using function for everything. Your set, I would be teaching that with function, because if you're working in an industry, to put your code to production, to service customer, it has to be in a function. So that's why I will use that method this time around. So you need to understand this one. So it's nothing much but wrap it. So we can put all of this inside a function. So what do? We can just define a function, def. We can call it calculate average. So we put a round bracket, so we put a quote, and then we indent it. So all of this one, we just indent it. And then we say, okay, while this is less than 5, so we're just indenting everything. That's all. The code is the same. So what we now do, and then we'll return whatever we want to return. So then you return. So, and a function will end with a return statement. What do you want to return? We want to return the average that we calculated. That is all. So the same code, but just put it in a function. That's all. So the same thing, total this, while the count is less than 5, enter the number, update it and all of that, and then calculate the average, then return the average. I can call this function several times now, and it will do the same thing. I can reuse this function now multiple times. So if I run this now, I will need, so let me call the function. I suppose I now want to calculate the average. So I will call the function name, calculate average. So if I run this now, it tells me enter a number. I put 10, enter number. So the same thing it did before, it's just that this time around is inside a function. That's all. See 17.2. Every time I call this function, I can do that for each person, and supply different number. So function is used for reusability. So why did I follow this approach? Function is not anything but just a wrapper. That's the way I see it. You can see we have written this code before. Now we only wrap the code inside a function name. So these are what we call the function body. This is the function header where you declare the function. How do you declare it? Use the def keyword, followed by the name of the function. We follow by a parenthesis and colon, and then end it with return average. It's not a must you return something, but if you want to print out something, like you want to supply some answer back to the user, then you have to return it. A function can also take arguments. For instance, if I'm not, is the reason I do not take argument is because I'm collecting the number from a user. That is it. But you can write function to take, like that would take argument. You know, for instance, you can write a function, this simple one, write a function to add two numbers. So I declare the two numbers as A and B. Those are the argument I'm supplying to the function. And I'm saying, maybe my result is addition of the two functions. Then I return the result of the two. So if I call back this function now, I call back add, I can always add anything, 10 and 5. I can always call it with anything, 13 and 5, that's it. So that's just a function. So a function can also take an argument. It may not take an argument if you like. And so that's just, so the same code you have been writing is just that remember that you define a function with def keyword, followed by a function name, followed by parentheses. You can put argument there if you are supplying argument, otherwise leave it empty. Put a code that we indent it and then write your code, whatever you want the function to do inside. And if you are supplying result back, you can return it. And we can call function within function, but we'll get there when we start dealing with data. We can call function and call the function back inside another function, all of that. It can get more complex than this, but know the basis of how to define a function. Every other thing will just be building upon it. Am I too fast? Any question? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Yakub. Okay, I think I've really explained all of this one. So the last thing I will talk about is the Lambda, and then we'll go to the breakout rooms. Lambda function. So Lambda is also a function, but we call it anonymous function. Anonymous means without name. You know, so it's not a replacement for the function I just explained. No. Lambda cannot handle complex things, but Lambda can help you a lot to reduce unnecessary code. We will use Lambda very well when we start working with data. Otherwise, you will have to write a bunch of code to do what Lambda can do in a single line. Yeah. So how does Lambda work? Lambda is an anonymous function, Lambda. Then it takes two things. It takes the argument and it takes expression. Argument is what comes after it. And then after the argument, you put a colon, and what comes after the colon is the expression. Now, argument, you can have multiple arguments, but the expression must always be one expression. You cannot write multiple expressions inside a Lambda function. For instance, now, suppose I want to multiply 10 by any number I supply to X. I can write it this way. So I'm supplying an argument B. B stands for any number I'm supplying. I'm saying, given any number, take that number and multiply by 10. That's all. So if I supply 50 to X, 50 stands for the B. That's the number. Take the 50 and multiply by 10. So if I do that, give me 500. If I put 56, it gives me 560. Anything. Whatever I'm supplying to you will be seen as B, and then you multiply by 10. You know, we can write a simple function to do that. We can write a function that says multiply. So take a number, take an argument, call a number, return a whatever number by 10. It's the same thing. So if we call mult now and give it, let's say 56, it's going to return 56. So Lambda is doing what you are doing here. Same thing. But Lambda may not be able to do so much. So if the program, what you want to do is complex, then you better put it inside a function that can take. But Lambda can help you. For instance, when we start working with data in Excel format, like table format, Lambda can help you work on the entire row from beginning to the end, even if it is a million row. It's just a single line we work on all of the rows. But if you have to write for loop to do that, that will stress you a lot. But Lambda can do all of that for you. So I think I put a question like that in assignment 2 or assignment 1 thereabout. I think it's assignment 2 or 1. So just check. So that's what Lambda can do. Like here now, I'm supplying 4 arguments. That's the argument, then ends with a colon. Then this is the expression. I'm saying whatever number, take the first number, multiply by the second number, add it to the third number, and subtract the last number from it. So even if whatever thing I like, so this will do 120 multiplied by 5, add 0 to it, and remove 8 from it. So 600 by minus 8. So things like that, and that's 592. So lambda, just remember that once you call a lambda, you have arguments, and then you have expression. What separates the argument from the expression is the colon there. That's all. Any question, please? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
I think Nigerian class setting is, everybody's used to that, whereby you just keep quiet and all of that. That's fine. As long as yeah, Taiwo, your network is breaking. Yeah,
My network is actually
okay, I can't really hear you. So, okay, so by this we have come to the end